Should start here in a second. Perfect. All right. So good evening, everybody. This is our event. So thank you very much for signing up. Was really glad to see so many of you interested in this topic. The title of tonight's event is Internship Prep 101. So the idea was to do a quick rundown, a quick kind of prep session, and some tips, some things to be mindful of as you get ready for your summer internships. So I was going through the registrations and saw a pretty wide range of different companies that people are going to be participating in over the summer, which is exciting. Congratulations to you all for securing those roles. If you do not have a summer internship, I saw there were a few people that just wanted to sign up and just come just to learn in general about ways to prepare for when you do get an internship for the coming year. You are certainly welcome here as well. So really excited to see that there was still interest from those of you who are in that category too. So this is our agenda for the evening. I kind of broke it down into three parts. So we're going to spend some time talking about how to get ready ahead of time, just like things that you should be doing right now as we lead into the summer. We'll talk about networking and just like probably familiar with what that means, but how to do it effectively, just some tips, some things to be mindful of as you're connecting with so many people over the course of your internship, how to stand out in a good way as you're interning, and just some general best practices. We're gonna do some goal setting too, so that'll be like our main kind of takeaway activity. So you'll spend some time talking to each other and just kind of reflecting on what you want to get out of your summer internship. And then we'll wrap up. We'll do some like share outs in the big group and talk about some like further resources and do some question and answer as time permits. We had planned for this to be about an hour, so we're going to be mindful to stick to that as best as possible. I want to be respectful of everybody's time, but I'll also be here afterwards in case we run long and people just have like other questions or anything that they wanted to talk about. So this is me. Hello, everybody. I've met a few people that had registered before, so good to see some familiar names, some familiar faces on here. But if I haven't gotten to interact with you or your SHPE chapter at any point, my name is Ruben Mercado. I've been with the SHPE National Office for about a year and a half in the internship program manager role. For those of you who are not familiar, we do partnerships with a few organizations. Most notably right now is Medtronic, where we have a program in place where they bring on a certain number of SHPE members as interns over the course of the summer. So prior to that, I was at the University of Texas at San Antonio for 5.5 years, go Roadrunners. And I worked in the College of Engineering there, and my role was a kind of a catch-all like career services, so student professional development as well as employer relations. So I say all that to say I've spent a number of years working with recruiters, working with hiring managers, working with companies on what they're looking for in their interns and their prospective employees. And this presentation was in collaboration with a lot of those people. So I got to connect with various hiring managers and recruiters that I've worked with in the past to get real applicable feedback on what has worked. Also talking to past interns, like just what's worked for them in their internships. And yeah, so this is all that to say this is based on like real practical tips that have worked out for people. Prior to my role at UTSA, I also worked at UT Austin and UNC Charlotte. Shout out to anybody who might be joining from either of those schools. And yeah, these are some of the things I like doing. I'm one of those people that likes running and has based my personality on it. So also happy to connect with people if they're training for any races or anything like that too. And yeah, also I don't have a slide for her. I was not a good colleague in that, but I also wanted to introduce my colleague Rose Martinez, who's with us tonight. Rose is our program manager for the Equipando Padres program here at SHPE. So Rose, if you want to say hello and introduce yourself as well.
Yeah, no worries about the slide. I joined SHPE in August of last year, and as Ruben said, I managed the Equipando Padres program. I recognize some of your names from an info session we had recently, so good to see you again, and nice to meet all the rest of you. Before joining SHPE, I worked in high schools, mostly for about 15 years, doing both community engagement work with parents and college preparedness kind of stuff. I was also a classroom teacher for almost 10 years at the high school level. So that's the experience that I'm bringing in tonight, and I'll be monitoring the chat. So anyways, if you guys have questions, I'll be sure to be looking out for those.
Awesome. Thank you, Rose, for being here and helping out this evening. And yeah, we'll jump right into it. So first things first, if you want to hop in the chat again and just write out where you're going to be interning this summer. I saw a really big list in the registrations, which is really cool. I know some of you are sticking closer to home and working for various like companies there, but I saw some big names also in the internship list. So just kind of shout out, and also like maybe there'll be somebody on the call this evening. You'll see that they're interning the same place that you are, so maybe you'll get to make a connection out of that too. So yeah, if you just want to write in the chat where you're going to be working this summer, or if you don't have an internship and you're just here to learn, that's great, and please feel free to share that as well. Rose, if you could help me out, just like identify, shout out some of the ones that you see coming into the chat. You're on mute.
Of course. I see Axiom Space, NASA contractor in Houston,
Cool.
Minneapolis, Minnesota for the first, going there for the first time. LA Department of Water, I believe is LADWP, Water and Power. Constellation Energy, another constellation. Rapid SOS in New York, how exciting. Microsoft, Milwaukee Tool, Texas Instruments, awesome. I just met somebody from there, so I'll have to reach out to you, David, and make sure you meet her.
That's
Medtronic
cool.
as well.
Hey, okay. That's
Awesome.
awesome. Awesome. What a wide range of companies. That's really exciting. I'm always excited to see just the range of talent that we have at SHIP, and I know all of you like involved in your various chapters, and that's really cool that we have people that are just going to be representing it such a big range of companies over the course of the summer. So that's really cool. I hope everyone's as excited as I am for you, and I hope tonight's session is impactful and maybe here's some things that you were thinking through already, but I hope everybody walks away with something that maybe they didn't know or weren't thinking of, and can apply it over the course of their internship. So let's jump into it. I have the first couple slides here. We're going to be talking about things to do to prepare ahead of time before the internship. Just some things to be mindful of, some advice based on what we've seen work with people, and yeah, let's get to it. So this first slide, this is for those of you who might be relocating. I did see in the chat that some of you are going to be at various cities, maybe somewhere else away from home for the first time. So just some things to be thinking of. Double check all of your dates. So this may sound um, common sense, but you'd be surprised. Like I've had conversations with recruiters before that they get some last minute questions like, what do you mean you don't know when you need to be here? So just make sure you have everything in writing. Go through all your emails, go through all your correspondences with the recruiter that works with you and with your supervisor so that you know when exactly you need to be there and when you need to start. Also double checking your academic schedule. Those of you who might be on like the quarter system and are still have a ways to go for the completion of your semester, just making sure that nothing overlaps and that you kind of communicate those things ahead of time. Also, just when your last date for the internship is, when the exact last day is, and any like presentations, it's pretty common at a lot of internships that you'll have some kind of like capstone project or some kind of deliverable at the end, and some a lot of times like a presentation on like what you learned, what difference, what impact you made at the organization. So just get all of that in writing and start planning ahead of time now. It's never too early to get a head start. That's something that with people that we've seen be successful in getting return offers, that's something that they were very proactive about doing. So making sure that you are taking care of that. Also, just anything related to relocation. Again, if you are going somewhere else for the summer, just making sure you know exactly like where you're staying. If there's any funding opportunities, a lot of times if you do have to relocate, a lot of times the company will provide that, which is great. But if not, if it's like a stipend, or if you're you know if you're still looking for a place or looking for roommates, just kind of getting a head start on that. Something that we do make note of, I have some stuff on it here. Check to see if where you're going to be over the summer, if you're relocating somewhere, if there's a professional ship chapter. I know here I'm based out of San Antonio, Texas, so San Antonio And nearby in Austin, we've got some proactive professional organizations. So maybe they have leads on like a place or scholarships or funding opportunities if you do need assistance in like securing a place. So just do some research ahead of that. Um, and then this is a big one. So just communication with friends and family. Um, I well, not by show of hands because I can't see everybody, but I imagine a lot of you, this is probably like your first internship, your first kind of full-time role that you're going to be in over the summer. And it's a big adjustment, and just making sure that your friends and family know that. Your communication patterns with people that you regularly talk to might change a little bit, which is okay because this is a significant time commitment and a big career opportunity for you that you'll be participating in. So just kind of making sure to set firm boundaries and know that clearly with people ahead of time. If you have something pressing back home that is really on your minds while you're at your internship, that could potentially be could distract you from being as present as you need to be for your role. So you want to know that and kind of come up with a game plan ahead of time. And again, just knowing your boundaries and what people should expect of you. Location research is a big one too. Getting used to time differences, that's a big one. I work a lot with students based out of like California who then relocate up north or like out east for the summer, and it's a bigger adjustment than you might think that it's going to be. So kind of setting a good sleep schedule now, that's something that I'll harp on a lot. The better you can be about that now is only going to help you long term, because it's harder to break out of those bad habits later on in life. It took me a while to set a responsible sleep schedule for a working professional, so get a head start on that now. Also, just like exploring the area. If you're going somewhere else for the summer, take advantage of that. Obviously, you're there to do a job, you're there to work, but explore the city that you're going to be in. Ask people for recommendations. That's somewhere else where just like networking and professional organizations can play a big role. So if you're able to participate in one of the SHPE professional chapters, or I imagine a lot of you are in engineering, so ASME, ASCE, a lot of those big national organizations, they have professional chapters as well, and probably networking opportunities and events and happy hours and things like that. Look to see if that's going on. You never know where a connection might lead, and if you might get to work with somebody in the future, or even just like make a good friend somewhere else that you are going to be over the summer. So do some research on that ahead of time. And if you are staying in town, if you're not relocating somewhere for the summer, that's great. A little bit less of an adjustment in terms of like maybe expectations, but still just like take the time to set a new routine. I say that to say because one thing that I've heard from people that maybe don't relocate from where they usually are for their internship, you're kind of still potentially in the mindset of like being a student or being like maybe like a part-time employee or things like that. But this is a new opportunity and really a new chapter of your life that you're stepping into. So really own that and really have that mindset. Still find the best route, the best way to get to work. That's something I don't think I emphasized enough in the last slide either. But regardless, like really know how to get your way around the area that you're going to be working in, if it's like in a different part of town from where you usually live in. And definitely if you're going somewhere new for the summer, familiarize yourself with if there's public transit options. That's always something that I wish we had here in San Antonio, but some cities do a good job of that. So if that's an affordable and easy option for you, taking advantage of that. Or if there's like carpool options, I know for the Medtronic interns that we work with, a lot of times they're staying in the same area for the housing option. So somebody will have a car and they'll kind of figure out carpool options. So knowing about that, and still just, and this is for people that are staying in town for the summer, still just like asking about other areas, like potential places that you could work, or just other opportunities, since you'll be kind of in the same city, but just still as many chances as possible to do something different or to do something new. And then of course, I think this is even more important if you're going to be in the same place that you've typically been in over the summer. Just really proactive on communication with friends and family, because again, you're taking on probably a 40-hour a week commitment. So just make sure they know the importance of that, and that this isn't just like a part-time thing that you're doing, that this is like a really the first step in building your career and building your professional network. So just that they can support you as best as possible in that by being mindful of your time and boundaries as much as is allowable. I got stuck here. Oh, okay. Next. So again, just doing as much research and paperwork ahead of time. So again, checking in with your managers, recruiters, making sure that there's no outstanding paperwork that they're still waiting on from you, that you didn't need to go somewhere to do a drug test. I imagine at this point, if you've got the internship, you've probably already done like the background check and things like that. But a big thing is getting your credentials set up for whatever systems they use, um, IT wise. So whatever you need to get access to, any passwords you need to get set up. If you are able to do that now, that probably saves you a little bit of time once you actually get over there. So just finding out about that. Um, and also just like knowing your job description front and back. This is crucial for a few reasons. Of course, you want to make sure you deliver on what you were hired for, but I would also say like if there is a coding software or some kind of like technical aspect that you're expected to do some work with, and maybe you're familiar or you've used it before, it's always good just to brush up. So if you can kind of do some research ahead of time on what tools you're going to be using, and you're able to kind of practice ahead of time, that's something that will help make you stand out early. I put here also researching the org chart. Um, if that's a new term for you, so typically a lot of organizations will have just a breakdown of who reports to who and who's in charge of what. So it's important to familiarize yourself with that, especially if you're working somewhere big. It can be a little confusing, but one of the ways that this is helpful is that it might give you some ideas on some people that you potentially could work with and network with that maybe you wouldn't have a chance to naturally. So one thing I've heard from past interns that they've done is they've just asked their hiring managers or whoever they're reporting to, like, hey, I saw so and so on the org chart that they are responsible for this project. Would it be possible for me to have like a meeting or a coffee with them, or for you to make an introduction for me? Just ask. A lot of times the answer is yes. Of course, as like time permits, you want to first and foremost make sure that you're delivering on what's expected for you in your regular role. But if you have the chance to kind of connect with somebody outside of that, that's helpful. The other reason it's important to know the org chart is to make sure that you're not like going over anybody's head, or like just that you're communicating with and reporting to the right person. I've heard some unfortunate instances where like people were not as mindful of that or not as respectful of that, and it's just something that stands out in a negative way. So just you want to know who's like in charge of what and who's reporting to who. And then again, just like starting to reach out and building that network. So hopefully everybody's got a strong presence on LinkedIn, which is a very useful tool. But go ahead and start making some introductions with people that you're potentially going to be working with. Nothing wrong with just reaching out ahead of time, and of course, like including an introductory message introducing yourself and what you're going to be doing over the summer. Um, but don't be shy about doing that and making some of those connections ahead of time. That might be helpful for when you actually get there. Also, just like researching the company culture. So this might be a little bit harder to do, but when I say culture, I mean in terms of just what people are like. If it's like super formal, if it's more like informal, more like casual. This is things like the dress code, or if people typically go out to lunch together. um if this is somewhere where if you've already got like maybe a mentor that the company paired you with, this is something that you could ask them. If you know like past interns or maybe any like past students that you've worked with who have worked there before, kind of getting that information ahead of time from them. I will say, especially at the start, and this is something I'll talk more about later, it's better to plan for being like, I don't want to say like super overly formal, but you definitely want to be like punctual. You definitely want to be very like respectful and just making sure that you're already making that impression. So I would not default to like assuming like, oh, I'm just gonna roll up in jeans and sneakers on the first day and it's gonna be fine because I'm just an intern. You want to make an impression and you want it to be a good one. But yeah, just kind of research that ahead of time. And remember that you're already making an impression. That's the biggest takeaway on all of this. Um, even though you may not have already started the internship, people develop reputations early on for things like, oh, so and so takes forever to respond to emails. Or, you know, if the hiring manager is in communication with the recruiter because they're like, hey, I'm still waiting on this, and the intern needs to get that taken care of before they can actually start. Um, People are already building their impressions of you, so you want those to be good ones. So just that's something that and, you know, if you're already hitting all the marks, if you're super punctual and responsive to things and really proactive, that's something that people remember and will make a good impression and make it a little easier to break the ice once you're actually there and once you actually get started. So some super important stuff. And then goal setting. So yeah, just we'll talk a little bit more about SMART goals later, but really identify your top strengths and what you bring to the table. I'm a huge advocate for Clifton Gallup Strengths Finder. For those of you who are familiar, I'm certified as a coach in that. So that's something that I always tie in with students to just know what they are already good at and what they bring to the table, and really just owning it. Something that I always tell people is that, especially right now in this day and age, the job market is pretty competitive, even for internships. So if you've got something secured over the summer, you 150% belong there. I did some research recently on how much companies spend just on like recruiting and onboarding, and it's like a pretty high price point even per person. So just don't give into that if you're struggling with like imposter syndrome, or if you're still feeling a little like, oh, I don't know, like I want to make sure that I do a good job, that I make a good impression. Just the fact of you having that opportunity already, and the fact of you coming to things like this, means that you already care a lot and are already getting set up for success. So yeah, just identifying your top strengths, what you bring to the table. I think it's helpful to write out like a 3 month plan for your internship. That's about the duration of a lot of these opportunities over the course of the summer. So journaling is really helpful. That's something that I was talking to one of my contacts, that she always works with her interns to, like, when they start out, just kind of writing out some goals and then revisiting that at the end to see like where they met their marks or where they exceeded those expectations. And then yeah, just getting advice from mentors and people in aspirational positions. By that I mean, like, if somebody's got a job title that you think is in your future that you're interested in pursuing, you know, a couple years down the road, just kind of connecting with them and making getting advice from them on how to stand out and that goal setting piece. So that is that's some tips for what you should be doing now before you get started. And the next portion, we were going to spend some time talking about things to do once you get there during your internship. Sorry, needed a brief water break. We'll get into it. Rose, is everything looking okay in the chat? Have there been any questions or anything that have come up on any of the previous topics?
No specific questions, just wondering if there's gonna be time for Q&A or if they should,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
just hold till the end, or when we'll do that.
Yeah, we'll do some we'll make sure to block out some time for Q&A. So we'll get through these on things to do during the internship, things to do afterwards, and then we'll have that kind of breakout activity. And then from there we'll have on the back end some Q&A time. So for sure.
Awesome,
Uh,
thanks.
cool. So during the internship, you've heard me say networking probably 100 times already, and you probably just heard it from various advisors and everyone. But yeah, it's super important. Of course, in addition to meeting your job expectations and knowing your stuff, I would say that this, from people that I've worked with that ended up becoming full-time employees of the companies, this is something that they really took advantage of. So introduce yourself to everybody. Don't just think like, oh, I just need to know like the immediate people on my team. Again, if you can get your hands on that org chart, or you can even just like block out some time in your one-on-ones with your supervisor, just kind of getting introduced to as many people as possible, even if it's like a quick cup of coffee or just like 10-15 minutes where you're learning more about them and what they do. You just never know where your path is going to lead. You never know who's going to be hiring for what position later on. So just making those connections now and taking the initiative. So even with other interns, if there's opportunities for you to maybe schedule a group lunch with some of the other interns. That's something that stands out with people as well, and just taking the time to build those relationships. People really value authenticity, and they feel valued when they feel seen, and just when somebody takes the time to get to know them or learn a little bit more about their role. So taking initiative and stuff like that is a way that you can make a really positive and lasting influence. I also put in a bullet point here on just knowing your own limits. This is something that I've had a lot of conversations with interns about. What I mean by that is, yes, build your network. Yes, go to everything that's available. A lot of companies will do over the course of the summer. They'll have happy hours. They might bring in a guest speaker for interns to do like a lunch and learn. They might yeah, some of those group lunches that I talked about. Try to go to as many of those things as possible and make sure that you know when those are happening. So again, that's in the preparation period, just getting all those things on your calendar so you know when to expect them. But also knowing your own limits. If you are a more naturally introverted person, and maybe this week you already went to, there was a happy hour, there was a, sometimes some companies, I know Medtronic does this, though, there might be like a softball or kickball league or something, which is pretty fun, especially if you're somewhere new for the summer. But don't overexert yourself. Don't go to something just because you feel like it's because you feel like you have to, because it also stands out in a negative way if you're at an event or you're somewhere and you can just see it on your face that you clearly don't want to be there. So just knowing your own limits and taking care of yourself, that's, you hear self-care get thrown around a lot, but it's really essential, especially as you're stepping into this new chapter of your life. This is a big adjustment. Like, you're going to be working and you're starting out your career, so just making sure that you feel comfortable and rested and all of that is critically important. And then practicing emotional intelligence. This is somewhere I could spend a lot of time talking. I have whole presentations that I've given on emotional intelligence, but just making sure that you're always being respectful, making sure that you're practicing good conflict management skills. Conflict is just part of life, especially in the workplace. I know we like to say like, oh, I get along with everybody, and things are going to be smooth sailing, and hopefully that's the case. But it's just natural. Workplaces have people that maybe you don't gel with as much, and it's just always going to happen. But making sure that even in situations like that, that you are coming at it from a place of wanting a mutually beneficial solution, and really like kind of checking yourself and coming up with the strategy for the conversation ahead of time is really important. If somebody says something in a meeting and you get upset, you don't want to let it go for too long, but you also don't want to react just like in the moment when maybe you're upset or you're angry about it. So just yeah, and this is something that I've helped people like navigate things like this in the past, and also something that I've talked a lot with like past interns. And this is somewhere where like if you've got a mentor or whoever you're reporting to, or a past intern that can give you advice on things like this, just kind of having somebody in your back pocket that can help you come up with strategies for things like this when they arise. So just practicing good conflict management skills and setting good mental habits. Again, the most important thing this summer is that you do well in the job and that you meet all and exceed all expectations. And one of just the simplest ways you can do that is just coming into work in with a good mood already. So whatever you need to do in the morning, however many hours of sleep you need, if you're somebody who needs a cup of coffee to get started the day, I'm a big iced latte person. So finding a good coffee shop on the way to work, of course, making sure that you get there in time. But whatever like mental habits you have, if you're somebody who likes to wake up early to exercise or meditate or pray or whatever the case may be, just making sure you still allot yourself enough time to do that so that you can be the best version of you that's showing up, and to hopefully make it easier when things do arise or if there are conflicts or anything like that. So that's a way to stand out in a positive way as well. Yeah, and then standing out. So like I already talked about, setting your schedule early. So check the calendars, go through all the calendar invitations that you have, especially for things like obviously like your check-in meetings with your supervisor, or any like meetings that you get invited to, but also for some of those things like the happy hours or any like intern lunches or lunch and learns. So just setting that schedule early and really familiarizing yourself. I always like to, at the end of the week and then also at the very start of the week, just look through what I have coming up within the next 5 days and just kind of make mental notes of it as well. I'm also somebody who needs to set alerts. I have them on my phone, I have them on my work calendar. So just find out what works best for you and make sure that you know where you're supposed to be is a very important thing. And then also looking for shadowing opportunities. So this was related to the networking piece that I was talking about before, but this is something that you especially might have more time for at the start of your internship before you get started on a lot of the deliverables and maybe projects that you need to do. Again, familiarizing yourself with that organizational chart, or if there are people that are in positions that you're interested in or other teams that you have an interest in working with in the future, just asking if there are chances for you to sit down with somebody for an afternoon or a morning, or even if it's just for an hour, just to learn more about it. um, a lot of people, this is true of life in general, I think, but especially in professional settings, I think a lot of times people just like disqualify themselves or just assume like, oh, I'm not going to be able to do that. But you don't know unless you ask. So don't be shy about just asking for chances to do things like that. And then again, I put taking initiative with other interns. Maybe your organization doesn't do some of the things that I talked about in terms of like a lunch and learn or a group lunch or a happy hour. Maybe you could do something like that. Maybe you could put something together, or I don't know, one of the big movies that's coming out this summer, if you want to get a group together to go see it, or bowling, or just grabbing lunch, or whatever the case is. Kind of building your network that way and taking initiative with other people, and building those connections now is really important. And then I would say set regular check-ins and know when those are with your manager and with any mentors that you have. Some people and some managers are better about this than others. I've worked with interns and with students who had a great supervisor who was very clear on like, this is how often we're going to meet, this is how often I need to hear from you. um, but if they're not, don't be shy about kind of setting that expectation, and just asking like, hey, how often would you like to meet, how often would you like updates on this project, what like method or communication style would you prefer for that? And just kind of knowing when to expect that. And then I would say, even just besides your managers, like any mentors that you have, you don't want to get too far ahead and try to reflect on everything at the end. So if you have somebody that can give you feedback and kind of help guide you as you're there, I think that's more beneficial too. So just kind of setting that schedule and setting those times now. And then some other best practices. So this is what I was alluding to previously. So I would default to like over communicating to start with. You don't want to be a nuisance, and this is definitely something that you can adjust just as you like learn more about your supervisor's communication styles. But excuse me, I wouldn't assume to I would just check in regularly. I wouldn't assume to like not go a long time without checking in with your manager. And this is something that like you'll just find again as you're finding those rhythms, as you're working with people. Um, just make sure that you're communicating regularly and effectively. And then determining your own processes. So again, understanding your job description and any immediate priorities that are expected of you. And just find what works best for you in terms of keeping track of assignments, in terms of keeping up with your schedule, and like what methods for the various technologies or like softwares that you need to use. And then be patient with yourself. This is something that I think people get discouraged early on, and it's hard to bounce back from if maybe you mess up on something early on. We're human, you're human, and this is something that I tell people all the time. But yes, this is a job. Yes, this is a new chapter in your career and your life. But this an internship is still a learning opportunity and is still meant to be an educational experience, and that's what it should be. So they are not expecting you to come in and know everything right off the bat on day one. They're there to help you. again, what I mentioned earlier, these companies spend a lot of money like going to career fairs, going to the SHPE National Convention to recruit. So they're very invested in making sure that you succeed. So don't beat yourself up if there's a mistake, if you didn't do something to the best of your ability the first time around, that just happens. It's important to just like learn from that and get feedback and understand how to avoid it later on. And then also just asking like past interns, any past students that you know, what worked for them. And again, just that regular piece of asking for feedback from your, even from your peers or from other staff members that are on your team or any mentors that you have. I think that peer review piece is sometimes like underutilized, but yeah, just asking other interns like, hey, how are things going for you? Like what's been working for you? How have you found good strategies for communicating with your supervisor and delivering on what's expected of you? So I think those conversations with other interns are helpful as well. And then just some quick notes on things to be mindful of for after the internship. Of course, just thanking everybody who helped along the way, keeping track of all that stuff. You're going to meet a lot of people over the course of the summer, so you don't want to look later and be like, who was so and so that I met at that one lunch. So kind of building your network, adding those connections on LinkedIn, getting people's emails, and thanking everybody along the way. And then this is really important, getting a clear understanding of like the return offer timeline. If everything went great, if you love the company, if your manager likes you, if you see a lot of growth for opportunity, you will more than likely have a good understanding of this already. They'll usually communicate very clearly like, hey, this is when you could expect an offer for, a second internship or a full-time role if you're graduating this upcoming year. So just making sure to know when to expect that for any other like pending things that you might have going on. I have this little bullet point here. This is honestly a much larger conversation, but if it wasn't a fit, just like knowing how to communicate that and how to navigate that delicately. Um, you would be surprised how long managers and recruiters' memories are. And this is okay. Like if you work somewhere for the summer, again, this is meant to be an educational opportunity and meant to be a learning experience. So this might be the first time that you're putting practical applications to the things that you're studying in school. And maybe by the end of it, you find, I know that I'm not interested in this type of company or this type of role. That is perfectly okay. But you want to come up with a good strategy to communicate that in your exit interview, or if you do end up getting a return offer, like maybe you did a good job and they like you, but you're not sure if you're thinking maybe you want to explore other options. Um, just communicating that respectfully and honestly, like they've dealt with this before. They've had interns that turned them down before for full-time roles. It's just important to be respectful of everybody's time because they also have a certain amount of time that they need to fill those roles and things like that as well. So just communicating it respectfully, of course, like thanking them for the opportunity, but just saying, hey, I would like to explore my career options in, maybe in another area, or I am interested in, just pursuing a different opportunity. So just making sure that you do that as well. Again, making sure to get everyone's connection info and reflecting on the experience. So any journaling that you might have done, any goal setting that you might have done, taking some time to do that. And speaking of goal setting, that's going to be the activity that we have now and kind of one of the main takeaways. So I imagine a lot of you have heard this term before, but SMART goals. So these are goals that are specific. So by the end of this internship, would like to secure a return full-time offer for this company or whatever the case may be. So just that it's clearly defined, that it's measurable. So, maybe your goal is you want to connect with, let's say, 5 professionals that work in this area of your career that you're interested in. So just a way that you're able to quantify it, that it's achievable. So of course that it's realistic. They're probably not going to make you like a team lead or a manager by the end of your internship. So we want to stick to realistic expectations, that it's relevant to your career and your life and interests. And of course that it's time bound. This one's kind of a cheat code for internships because you probably have like 3 months, but maybe it's not. Maybe you're going into like your junior year of school. So you have like 2 years left. So maybe it's that you, within the next 2 years, I want to do this internship and then I want to intern in a different area of this company. And then by the end of the second year, I want to have a full-time role in this area. So just some examples of what to expect like that. I'm going to stop talking for a few minutes. And what we're going to do is I'd like everybody to spend some time reflecting on some of these things. So identify one goal that you have for your internship, identify somebody that can help you achieve that goal, and then write out a SMART goal that you would like to accomplish by the summer or whatever timeline you've identified. And then we're going to do some time with you all connecting with each other and talking through some of these. So I'm going to stop and we'll do that for about 3 minutes and then we'll put you all in breakout rooms to discuss these. So sound good? I saw Rose nod, so that's good for me. So. Okay, hopefully that gave everybody enough time to work on some of this. If you're still writing or thinking through some things, that is okay. There was a question that came in I saw on if we're going to be sharing the slides in the recording, which yes, we will. So I will do my best to get that out tomorrow morning. Sometimes our systems are iffy and like it's a big file to send to like a lot of people. So I'll get it out as soon as I can. Next, we're going to do some breakout rooms. So what you're going to do in your breakout rooms is discuss what you were just reflecting on. So introduce yourself, share where you're going to be over the summer and any goals that you've identified. And I'd like for everybody to be able to share that in the breakout rooms. I'm going to stop sharing so that I can see how many people we have. So besides you and me, Rose, 18. So let's do I didn't expect to have to do math. 4 breakout rooms?
I think that sounds good.
Okay. I am going to start doing those assignments. If I could find, where did my breakout rooms go?
You want me to do it?
Hang on, I think I got, yeah, could you? So let's do 4 breakout rooms. And then we'll come back. We'll spend some time with people sharing out with the large group, and I'll make sure that we get some time to do some question and answer as well. And we'll spend, let's say, 10 minutes, 10 minutes in breakout rooms. You should see an invitation come up from Rose here in a little bit. Let me bring this back up.
We have 30 more seconds for people to finish their conversations. Ruben, just so you know, we are only at half right now.
Okay, cool.
I can let you know when it's fully closed out.
Cool.
We have 3 of the 4 rooms back fully, and you'll have everybody back in about 10 seconds.
9, 8.
We should be good.
Awesome. Welcome back, everybody. In the interest of time, if people want to put their goals in the chat, that would be great. I would like if maybe like one or two people want to hop on and turn their mic on and share publicly. That would be cool. But yeah, I'd like to get to everybody. So if you're not able to share publicly, if you want to put your goal in the chat, that would be great as well. But does anybody want to share out loud?
I guess I could go.
Awesome.
My name is Kenneth Encarnacion. I'm going to UCR. I'll be starting my PhD soon at Caltech. My big goal was to win the Hertz Fellowship.
Awesome.
I know it's very competitive, but I want to see how I land on that.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, if you've got a game plan and start writing out action steps, that's the first most important thing. So thank you for sharing. That's a big goal. I'm wishing you all the best in that. Anybody else would like to share? If not, we can. I would like everybody to put in the chat if they're not able to share like publicly. But if as long as you talked about it in your breakout group, sounds like we had some good conversations. That's awesome. Glad you're able to take advantage of that. We're going to start wrapping up here. So some other resources just to be mindful of. Again, we talked about mentors a lot, but just like anybody that you can connect with that can help prepare you ahead of time, that you can ask questions about the culture, that they can review your goals. We're here as a resource. So SHPE, so myself, Rose, our staff, our various chapters, any like hiring managers or recruiters that you've been working with the whole time are important as well. And just like friends, family, some of these websites, as well as your school career center. So take advantage of those things. We have another event on Thursday, similar topic. So intern success panel. So some of our full-time professional members from SHPE who are working at various companies are going to be sharing their experiences and answering questions and talking about what works for them and how to stand out. So we would love for you to be there. This QR code is the registration link. It's up on our website and newsletters and social media as well. But yeah, we would love to see a big group for that one as well. And then thank you for your time. This is my contact information. If you want to keep in touch, this is the QR code to my LinkedIn if you would like to connect. And we're almost pretty close to time, but I do want to get to like any questions that people had. So I'm going to go ahead and take those now. I saw one, at least a Q&A come up. Any tips for landing an internship as a first year? Yeah, that's that's great. I love when people are thinking about things like that early on in their career. Just I would say for first year students, don't disqualify yourself. So just attending career fairs, still hitting the ground running on the networking part of it. So if you've got a LinkedIn, if you can do some research on companies that you're interested in, make some connections with recruiters or like people in positions that you would be interested in. It's really all about networking and just like reaching out and putting yourself out there and just like emphasizing the things that you bring to the table. Like maybe you don't have as much of the academic background quite yet, but just like any work or volunteer experience that you have, making sure your resume and that you're presenting yourself well in all of those regards too. So really good question. And there's some companies that will do programs specifically for like first year students that are meant to be like educational in nature. So I would say don't disqualify yourself from applying to things just because you're in your first year. So good question. I saw David had raised, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say David has his hand up and then there's another question in the chat.
Okay, cool. David, and then we'll get to the next one after that.
Awesome, thank you. So my quick question is, when you talk about mentors and seeking for their guidance, are we talking about like the supervisor that we're gonna get assigned, or what is your input on that? Should we find another person as well in the company, or what's your advice on that?
That's a really good question. It can be your supervisor. I've worked with students that have developed really good relationships with their supervisor that are, invested in their career early on and can provide feedback and guidance. But I think finding somebody outside of that is really helpful as well. Hopefully, where you're going to be interning, a lot of something that I didn't talk about as much is that a lot of companies will have what's called employee resource groups. So there'll be a lot of times like identity-based organizations that's really for like group of people from similar backgrounds or similar experiences to connect and talk about things like this, like talk about career growth and mentorship and things like that. So I would encourage you to look into any of those. And a lot of times they will have their own like mentorship programs. They'll have chances for you to connect with people that have been at the company a little bit longer. I think other people that would be good are like any like other students that that maybe did an internship there in the past and now they're working there full time. Um, but yeah, I think your manager can and should be a good resource for things like that. But it's helpful to have somebody outside of that that can be a little objective because of course your manager's like primary goal is making sure that you're delivering on all the things that are expected out of your job, but somebody that can help guide you that's not invested in that way and that also can hopefully this doesn't come up, but if you have to have like a hard conversation with your manager or there's some kind of like disagreement or maybe you're having a hard time with them, somebody that can help that's more seasoned that can help you navigate that is helpful too. And I think I mean, SHPE does a lot of mentorship opportunities, so you can reach out to us. We can see about like getting you connected with somebody. But I think also just being proactive and just kind of like, again, that networking, putting yourself out there, going to different things and finding people that are in positions you aspire to that maybe are interested in and open to meeting with you and helping in that way is important. So
So
that makes
I
sense?
added the link to our mentorship
Yeah.
page on the SHPE website into the chat if you're interested in checking that out. There's several ways to get connected with a mentor through SHPE. Also, a quick question before we get to the more specific question. Martina is wanting to know, is it okay if we share the slides and video with our own SHPE chapters once you send them out?
Sure. Yeah, that'd be great. Again, I would love to do this if you want me to talk to your SHPE chapters or you have, opportunities, things like that. As you can see, I'm passionate and have had a lot of background and stuff like this, so it's hard to condense into an amount of time. So I'm open to doing it again or connecting with your chapters. So don't be shy about reaching out.
Oh, that's
Okay,
a
good
huge
question.
offer for all you guys to bring Ruben into your chapter meeting. Awesome. Kenneth is asking, what's the best way to secure an internship for a PhD student? Is there anything special that a doctoral student should emphasize?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I don't have um as much well no like I've worked with PhD students in internships before and like the specific mentorship or internship program we do now, they've been bringing on graduate students in the past year. I think something that's advantageous for like PhD students and people in like post-grad opportunities is any like research lab experience that you can emphasize. Something that I've seen a lot of students in those type of programs maybe like disqualify themselves from or not think of as much as they think of it as like wholly separate from work experience, but it's really not. Like you're you're utilizing the same skill sets, you are working directly as part of a team, you're having to communicate effectively to meet deadlines, you're having to do a lot of research and pay a lot of really close attention to detail. So anything you can emphasize on that and translate it to the experience is valuable. I think something that's important to be mindful of if you're in your PhD or your master's program is when you're applying to things, just getting a sense as best as possible if they want a resume or a CV, a curriculum vitae, I think is what the V stands for. But those are two very different things. The CV is significantly longer, and sometimes they do want to see that because it's easier to like emphasize everything and showcase everything that you've done. But just kind of checking with the recruiter and hiring the recruiter ahead of time, which format would be preferable, because you don't want to disqualify yourself because you submitted a document that's like too long for what they were looking for. but having, I would say, like just a template of both saved, so like a resume that's a little shorter and highlights the big talking points, but a CV that has everything listed out is helpful to have as well. Something else, like for PhD students, if you have any like patents or publications or anything like that, that I've seen make a big difference and really stand out in a strong way. Some of the master's students that got hired for the Medtronic internship, that's something that they talked a lot about in their interviews, and that they, that they've gotten this patent or that they've been published in this journal. That's a really strong talking point that you can emphasize that maybe you wouldn't have as much experience in if you were an undergraduate. So, and then also just asking, because sometimes different, especially larger companies, they'll have recruiters that specifically work with like PhD and master students. So you want to make sure that you're getting in contact with the right person. So just spending some time researching stuff like that on LinkedIn or on the company website as possible. Those are some immediate tips that come to mind in terms of like PhD and graduate students.
Well, we have several thank yous in the chat. I don't see any other hands raised or anything else in the chat, Ruben.
Okay, awesome. This was fun. I like doing stuff like this. So again, if you are interested in me, if you're interested in connecting or like talking more in depth on some stuff like this, feel free to reach out and see about scheduling a time, or if you would like me to connect with your SHPE chapter. Really, however I can be of use and be a resource, I'm happy to do so. I want to thank everybody for coming and taking the time out of their schedule to do this. Really means a lot to me. This is the first time that we're doing something like this. We want to do more similar programming for just like our members at large. So there will be a survey that comes up when you log out of here. Please do those so that we know what worked, and so that we can say to like potential sponsors or potential companies that we're working with what worked. And yeah, thank you very much for being here. I think that was my last slide. Feel free to email me, send me a message on LinkedIn. Real quick, if people are open to it, I'm gonna stop recording too.